Uday, you can go ahead and go to the first slide. I want to take a minute to talk about um, two users that have started using VisualCAMc and Onshape and have experienced great success doing so. The first one here is De La Rue Authentication Solutions, and we have a success story in print and a video of the success story. There's a link for the printed version of the success story at the bottom. And I think, Joe, you're going to paste a link to the video in the chat. De La Rue, if you look at this emblem here on the top right, that is what De La Rue Authentication Solution does. Now, De La Rue is a large global company that they interact with a lot of banks and security mechanisms of that nature. The authentication solutions part of it makes those laser imaged appliques for authentication labels that companies can place on products. And those are laser imaged on 1,000 thick pieces of polymer. And can you think about the apparatus and the technology required to do that? It's very proprietary and no one else does it. So they're, as I mentioned, they're a UK global-based company in business for over 200 years. They work with central governments and banks on security measures, like on banknotes and other types of security and all the management that goes with that. The Authentication Solutions division creates the authentication labels that are laser imaged on these appliques. And think of all of the mechanical components and component mechanisms to actually make this happen is what they do. John Humphreys, we sat down with John and talked about De La Rue Authentication Solutions, and he is the engineering manager for the past 18 years. And he is a longtime user of SolidWorks and with VisualCAM for SolidWorks. And they use SolidWorks and VisualCAM to develop all of the developmental designs and the prototype designs and the production designs for this production system to make these appliques. And in the last 2 years, John moved over to to Onshape. He liked the Onshape model, the fact that you don't have to have any IT people. His big comment was that he doesn't have to have anybody come in and do updates or manage the software or do anything of that nature. It's all done for him on the cloud, and that's one of the things that he really liked about it. And plus, the first thing he started looking for when he went to Onshape was how was he going to cut parts. So when he saw that MecSoft had a product for Onshape, he was one of the first ones to sign up. And currently, he's using both products. He's using Onshape and VisualCAMc, and he's using SolidWorks and VisualCAM for SolidWorks. So he's in a phase where he's using both, and he's got about maybe 1,000 components migrated over to Onshape, and he cuts all of his developmental and prototype components in-house using VisualCAMc, and still uses VisualCAM for SolidWorks and SolidWorks. But he's in that middle transition, and that's why it's so interesting about this success story, because he's finding success in both technologies, and that's what's interesting about it. Now, hardware-wise, they machine the assemblies to do this are rather small, if you can think about making these appliques and lasers. So it's a very compact system, so the components are relatively small. So he uses a Roland MDX 540. He has a CNC Master Supra knee mill an X-carve CNC router, mostly for just wood, and he has a couple of custom designed CNC routers that they have designed, put together internally that he's using the product with also. So I encourage you, this case study, success story is already written. It's on our website. I encourage you to go read it. And there's a video that goes with it. If you don't like reading, just watch the 10-minute video, and it goes over all of what John's doing with VisualCAMc and with Onshape. And I think you'll find it.
I just, hey Don,
Yep.
just a note, quick note. I just posted both the link to the case study as well as the video, the YouTube video link on the chat window. So if people are looking at it, they can get access to that.
Okay, Uday, if you want to go to the next success story. And here's a slide for a comment from John Humphreys. This is just one comment. In our discussion we had with John, he had a lot of good things to say. We obviously can't say everything that he said, but the case study does have all of his comments in it. One of the comments I wanted to hear is that he's really happy with VisualCAMc and the fact that he can do development and prototyping, design and machining in-house and make changes within a day and have a new part machined and they're ready to go. They save a lot of time, especially in development when you go through a lot of iterations of designs, and Onshape is really good with that as well as far as the product management. So the two go together very well, and that was one of the things he was very happy with. And the fact that because he already knows VisualCAMc for SolidWorks, moving and working on VisualCAMc, basically almost a zero learning curve. I mean, he was just up and running immediately within a day. So that was the comment that I wanted to show from John. Okay,
another thing.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, before you close it out, the other thing I would like to add is Onshape is really good for collaboration, which means you could have people in different parts of the world looking at the same part, working on the same part, and the same thing with VisualCAMc. What you can have two users looking at not simultaneously, but you can look at the same part. You don't have to do any emails of the part files. They access the exact same database from different parts of the world. So it's almost instantaneous, all these changes that you might be working on that the other person on the other end of the world might see. So that's an important distinguishing factor of Onshape and VisualCAMc as compared to the desktop products.
And Joe, that was another thing that John mentioned was, since they're a global company, they do collaborate in different parts of the world. And that was another one of his great benefits that he commented about as far as using Onshape and VisualCAMc.
One thing I could add here is this is like, working on a document, multiple users collaborating at the same time. Consider this is the CAD, Google Docs for CAD or something similar to that. So everybody can work on the same document at the same time while you're designing it. And then you don't have to email, just share a link, how you share a link to any document.
Okay. This next user, West Penn Manufacturing, they're in Crescent, Pennsylvania. Uday, we can go to the next slide since all of the talking points for this one I was on the next slide. They're a relatively young company. George Bohr is a chief operating officer. We sat down and talked with George just recently. He has a lot of years in manufacturing, worked for a lot of different companies in the shipbuilding, in a lot of different industries. And he decided to just let it go and start his own company, him and his family. So it's a family-owned company, about 5 years old. They have about 25 employees, and they're a build-to-print manufacturer. So what they get, all they get is a PDF drawing. And it's got the specs and all the information they need to quote the part and to manufacture the part. So they got to take that print and they model it in Onshape. And they've been with Onshape for about 1.5 years, and they use it exclusively now. So they do a lot of, not really complex, but some of the parts are complex. A lot of sheet metal parts, a lot of drilling, a lot of pocketing, and they do production anywhere from 1 or 2 prototype parts up to 1,000 or more annually of some components. And they have over 1,000 different parts that they're actually in production at any one time. So, like I mentioned, if you could go back 1 second, I wanted to, Uday, go back to the previous slide for just a moment. George, his previous experience has been all with SolidWorks. In his previous CAM experience prior to Onshape, he was using SolidWorks, he was using Pro-E, and also using MasterCam and GibbsCAM for his machining. And the type of hardware he uses in-house, the typical manufacturing hardware you expect: punch presses, plasma cutters, water jets. But he also has 3 Haas VF6 machining centers, and he keeps them running pretty much 24 hours a day. And Uday, if you want to go to the next slide. One of the interesting things about George in relation to John is that George has never experienced VisualCAM or MecSoft products before now. He got the product, got VisualCAMc about a year ago. About 6 months after he got Onshape, he saw that we had a plug-in for Onshape, and he got on board of that, and he hasn't looked back. So he compares it very easy to use, you can imagine, in comparison to MasterCam or GibbsCAM. And the fact that it's on the cloud, it's even better. He can collaborate with his vendors and whatnot. And he really likes the ease of use of VisualCAMc. Now, this success story, we're working on it right now. We don't have a PDF that you can read or a video yet, but we will have that. And if you keep track of our emails and stuff and our website and our case studies and stuff, you'll see that that will be coming out very soon.